Let me tell you something powerful. The day I got rich wasn't the day I made my first million. It wasn't the day my business took off. And it surely wasn't the day I bought my first car or house. I got rich the day I understood this, because real wealth doesn't start in your bank account, it starts in your mindset. You see, for years I chased success the way most people do, thinking that if I worked harder, stayed up later, hustled longer, I'd get there faster. I thought money was the reward for exhaustion. But one day it hit me like a thunderbolt. Money is not the reward for hard work. It's the reward for value creation. And that was the moment my life changed, because the world doesn't pay you for how tired you are. It pays you for how valuable you are. You can spend 10 years working like a machine and still stay broke. But 1 year of creating massive value can change your entire bloodline. Let me tell you something powerful. The world doesn't pay you for effort, it pays you for impact. You can sweat for years, grind every single day, wake up before the sun and sleep after midnight and still remain broke, because money doesn't chase effort, it chases value. That's the truth. Nobody told us when we were growing up. We were told to work hard, but nobody told us to work smart. We were told to stay busy, but nobody told us to become valuable. When I understood that, everything changed. I stopped counting hours and started measuring impact, because let's be honest, there are people working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they're still struggling to pay their bills. Then there are others who work 4 hours a day and make more money than most people make in a year. What's the difference? It's not luck. It's not privilege. It's value. The moment you stop trading time for money and start trading value for money, that's when your entire life shifts. You see, the world doesn't reward effort. It rewards effectiveness. People don't care how hard you tried. They care whether you delivered. The marketplace is not emotional. It's not sentimental. It's mathematical. It pays for results, not for attempts. And that's where most people get it wrong. They think if they just work longer, they'll get richer. But the truth is, you can't outwork a broken system of thinking. You can't hustle your way out of ignorance. You need clarity. You need understanding, because clarity beats effort every single time. Let me say it this way. A man who knows how to build value will always earn more than the man who only knows how to work hard. A builder creates systems that multiply his effort. A worker trades his time until he has nothing left to trade. That's why some people are exhausted and broke, while others are relaxed and wealthy. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. When I finally understood that, I stopped trying to prove how hard I was working and started asking, how much value am I bringing? That one question flipped my mindset, because it made me realize something deep. Nobody cares about your hustle until your hustle produces something that matters. Let that sink in. Nobody pays for effort, they pay for outcomes. So if you want to change your income, change your output. Don't focus on being busy. Focus on being useful. Don't just show up, stand out. Don't just participate. Contribute. You want to know why the rich keep getting richer? Because they understand this law of value. They wake up every day asking, what can I build that others need? They're not focused on survival. They're focused on service. And that's why the universe keeps rewarding them. Listen, if your goal is to get rich, stop asking, how can I make more money? And start asking, how can I solve bigger problems? Because the size of your paycheck will always match the size of the problems you're willing to solve. The man who fixes one car gets paid for one car, but the man who builds a system that fixes 1,000 cars, he gets paid for 1,000. That's leverage. That's value. And here's the hook. The world doesn't owe you anything. It owes you exactly what you've earned through value. That's the rule of life. You can't demand more if you haven't delivered more. You can't expect to rise if you haven't built something that lifts others. Wealth isn't about how much you take. It's about how much you create. The most dangerous thing in today's world isn't poverty, it's ignorance. People are busy being busy. They're stuck in motion but not in progress. They confuse movement with momentum. Just because you're running doesn't mean you're going anywhere. Real growth begins when you understand why you're running and what you're building. The day I learned that, I stopped working for money and started working for value. I started building things that could outlive me, ideas, systems, impact, and the money followed. It had no choice, because money is attracted to value like gravity pulls the earth. You can't fight it. You can't fake it. You either have value or you don't. So ask yourself today, are you valuable? Or are you just busy? Are you creating something people can't live without? Or are you just doing what everyone else is doing? Because if you do what everyone does, you'll earn what everyone earns. But if you think differently, if you build something unique, if you learn something deeply and serve others through it, you'll stand where few ever stand. There's a reason only 1% of people control most of the wealth. It's not because they got lucky, it's because they understood something. They understood that the marketplace doesn't care about your story, your struggle, or your excuses. It only respects results. That's the brutal truth. And it's also your greatest opportunity, because the moment you start focusing on results, your life changes. You stop waiting for luck. You stop blaming the economy. You stop waiting for someone to save you. You start building yourself. So here's my challenge to you. Don't compete to be the hardest worker in the room. Compete to be the most valuable person in the room, because the person who brings the most value will always have the most options. And options are the real currency of freedom. The moment I understood that, I stopped chasing money and started chasing impact. And when my impact grew, so did my income. Not because I begged for it, not because I prayed for it, but because I earned it through value. That's the secret nobody tells you. You don't get rich when you work more. You get rich when you matter more, when your presence creates change, when your skills open doors, when your ideas solve real problems. So stop asking for permission. Stop waiting for opportunities. Create them. Build something people need. Become someone people trust. Because when you become valuable, money becomes inevitable. That's the truth I understood, and that's the day I got rich. Let me tell you something most people never understand. The mind is the starting point of all wealth. Before the first dollar ever appears in your account, it appears in your thinking. The poorest man in the world is not the one without money. It's the one without the right mindset. You can take all the money from a wealthy man and he'll build it again. But give a poor mindset a fortune and it will disappear. Because money never stays where the mind rejects it. I used to think that if I could just earn more, life would change. But then I realized it wasn't my income that needed to grow, it was my thinking. Because your mind is the gatekeeper of your destiny. Nothing great can enter your life unless your mind first gives it permission. That's why so many people work hard, hustle endlessly, and still stay stuck. They're trapped, not by their environment, but by their mindset. They keep saying, I can't, I don't have, I'm not ready. And life listens. Here's the truth. Your external world will always reflect your internal belief system. If you believe you're meant to struggle, life will hand you struggle. If you believe you deserve abundance, life will open doors you never knew existed. You can't attract what you secretly think you're unworthy of. So before you chase success, you must condition your mind to receive it. When I was younger, I used to see successful people and think, they're lucky. But luck has very little to do with it. The difference between the rich and the poor, the fulfilled and the frustrated, is not opportunity. It's awareness. The rich see possibilities where others see problems. They see lessons where others see loss, because they've trained their minds to interpret reality differently. That's what a wealthy mindset is, a lens that sees potential in chaos. The reason mindset matters more than money is because mindset is portable. You can take it anywhere and it will work. Lose your job, lose your clients, lose your comfort. But if your mind is strong, you'll rebuild it all. Because your mindset carries the blueprint of your life. It decides what you attempt, how you react, and how high you rise. You ever wonder why two people can start with the same resources, same education, same city, yet one becomes a millionaire and the other stays stuck? It's not skill, it's not timing, it's thinking. The one who wins simply believes differently. While one says, it's impossible, the other says, let's find a way. While one waits for certainty, the other takes a step in faith. That's mindset. That's the difference between staying average and rising above. Here's a hook for you, and the world will always mirror the story you believe about yourself. If you believe you're destined to win, life will align to prove you right. If you believe you're not enough, life will also confirm it. That's how powerful your mind is. It's not the external world stopping you. It's your internal conversation. Because every limitation you see outside is rooted in a belief you accepted inside. You want to become wealthy? Stop managing money and start managing your mind, because your mind decides what you tolerate, what you risk, and what you build. The moment you think small, you'll act small, and small actions never lead to big results. Expand your thinking, and your world expands with it. I remember sitting in a small office, broke, tired, and angry, and I realized I had been fighting the wrong enemy. The real battle wasn't outside, it was inside. I had to unlearn everything I was told about success. I had to stop believing that money was evil, that ambition was arrogance, that dreams were unrealistic, because those beliefs were not protecting me, they were limiting me. And the moment I changed those beliefs, everything shifted. Opportunities started appearing. People started trusting me. Confidence replaced fear. Because when your mindset changes, your energy changes, and energy attracts opportunity. The universe doesn't respond to need, it responds to belief. Listen carefully. If your thoughts are poor, your results will be poor. If your mindset is abundant, your results will multiply. The people who rise in life are not the ones who have the most resources. They're the ones who resourcefully use what they have. They turn every obstacle into a lesson, every failure into fuel, every no into a next move. That's the language of a wealthy mind. Most people wait for success to feel confident. The wealthy feel confident before success. That's why success comes, because confidence is the signal that tells life, I'm ready. If you wait until you have it all figured out, you'll be waiting forever. You have to think it before you see it. Let me drop a truth that changed my life. Money is not the goal. It's the result of alignment between your belief, behavior, and boldness. When those three line up, wealth flows naturally. But when your mind is full of fear, doubt, and self-limitation, you repel everything meant for you. You see, you can't be wealthy on the outside if you're bankrupt on the inside. You can't talk abundance while thinking scarcity. You can't build an empire with the same mindset that built your excuses. Your mind is the soil, and your thoughts are the seeds. You can't plant fear and expect freedom. You can't water doubt and expect destiny. So here's what I learned. Success doesn't come from changing your situation. It comes from changing your story. The day you start believing you deserve more, you start attracting more. You start showing up differently, speaking differently, deciding differently, because your actions will always follow your identity. The mind is your factory of fortune. Every great life began as a great thought. Every transformation began as a decision. Every wealthy person began as someone who refused to stay poor in thought. Because once your mind accepts abundance as your truth, no circumstance can keep it from you. The day I got rich wasn't the day money entered my life. It was the day belief did. The day I stopped seeing myself as a struggler and started seeing myself as a builder. The day I stopped reacting to life and started creating it. That's when the world began to shift in my favor. Not because life changed, but because I did. And that's the real secret. You don't change your world by fighting it. You change it by outgrowing it. You don't wait for opportunity. You become the kind of person who attracts it, because the wealth you're looking for isn't somewhere out there. It's already inside you, waiting for your mind to finally believe it deserves to exist. Let me tell you something that changed the entire direction of my life. Profit follows purpose. For years, I thought making money was about chasing every opportunity, saying yes to every deal, grinding without sleep. and trying to outwork everyone around me. But I was wrong, because success without purpose feels empty. Profit without purpose becomes a prison. And the day I understood that truth, my definition of wealth transformed forever. You see, too many people are chasing success, but they have no idea why. They wake up every morning running after money, but they don't know where it's taking them. They're climbing a ladder only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall. The question isn't, can you make money? The real question is, can you make meaning? Because when your life is driven by purpose, money stops being the goal. It becomes the outcome. Purpose is powerful because it gives your struggle meaning. It gives your sacrifice direction. Without purpose, you'll burn out. With purpose, you'll rise higher. That's why so many people are tired, not because they work too much, but because they're working on the wrong thing. You can't find fulfillment in something that doesn't align with who you are. You can be surrounded by money and still feel broke inside. Here's the hook. The richest people in the world are not the ones with the biggest bank accounts, but the ones with the deepest sense of why. When you know why you're doing what you're doing, no setback can break you. The reason most people quit is because they're chasing rewards, not results. They're driven by income, not impact. But once you find your purpose, quitting stops being an option, because purpose gives you something money can't: identity. I remember the moment I realized this. I was sitting in a meeting signing a deal that would pay me more than I'd ever earned before. But when I walked out, I didn't feel proud. I felt empty. I had money in my hands, but no meaning in my heart. That's when it hit me. I had been chasing numbers, not significance. I had success on paper, but failure in spirit. And that's when I asked myself the question that changed my life. What's the point of earning everything if I lose myself in the process? That question became my awakening. I began shifting from success to service. I stopped asking, how can I make more? And started asking, how can I matter more? And ironically, when I stopped chasing money and started chasing meaning, my money grew faster than ever, because the universe rewards alignment. When what you do matches who you are, success stops being a chase and becomes a magnet. You can fake effort, but you can't fake purpose. People feel it. They can tell when you're driven by something real. That's why authentic people win. Purpose has a frequency and the world responds to it. You start attracting people, opportunities, and ideas that fit your vision because your energy becomes undeniable. But let me warn you, finding your purpose isn't easy. It will demand honesty. It will strip away ego. It will force you to stop pretending, because purpose doesn't come from what looks impressive. It comes from what feels right. It's born from your pain, your lessons, your calling. It's the voice that says, this is what you were made to do. And when you find that, you find your fire. Purpose-driven people work differently. They're not motivated by applause. They're fueled by conviction. They don't chase validation. They chase transformation. They understand that success without service is hollow, and money without meaning is misery. So they focus on building something bigger than themselves, something that outlives them. The truth is, money is the loudest when purpose is silent. When you don't know why you're doing it, money becomes your only scorecard. But when you know your purpose, money becomes your tool, a resource, not your identity. Purpose gives your profit direction. It turns transactions into transformations. It gives your success soul. People always ask, how do I find my purpose? You don't find it in books or seminars. You find it in service. You find it when you stop asking what the world can give you and start asking what you can give to the world. You find it when you look at your talents and ask, how can this help someone else? Because purpose always hides in contribution. And here's the irony. When you start serving, wealth follows naturally. Not because you're chasing it, but because value creates demand. When you solve real problems, people will always find you. You don't have to scream for attention. Your work will speak louder than your words. Purpose makes your brand magnetic, your actions meaningful, and your journey unstoppable. You see, the market doesn't reward those who want to be rich. It rewards those who make others rich. In wisdom, in opportunity, in impact. That's the secret of purpose-driven wealth. You rise by lifting others. You succeed by serving others. That's how you build empires that last, not just businesses that pay. Let me give you a truth most people avoid. Success is rented, and the rent is due every day. But purpose is owned. Once it's yours, no one can take it away. And once you operate from purpose, every obstacle becomes a lesson, every failure becomes feedback, and every victory becomes fuel, because you're no longer running from something. You're running towards something greater. The day I understood this, I stopped chasing success like a man running from his shadow. I realized that profit is a byproduct, not the goal. The real goal is impact. To leave a mark, to make a difference, to live a life that matters. Because at the end of it all, money fades, titles fade, applause fades, but purpose remains. And when you live with purpose, you don't have to chase wealth. Wealth chases you. Because people pay for passion, they pay for authenticity, they pay for clarity. And when your life is aligned with your calling, the world can't help but reward you. That's when you stop living a life of survival and start living a life of significance. That's when your work becomes your worship, your business becomes your ministry, and your profit becomes your proof that purpose always wins. There's a difference between doing a thing and mastering it. Most people spend their entire lives doing, but very few ever master. They jump from one idea to another, one opportunity to the next, hoping something will finally work. But life doesn't reward the restless. It rewards the relentless, the ones who choose one craft, one vision, one discipline, and refine it until it becomes art. The truth is, the marketplace doesn't pay for effort. It pays for excellence. You don't get wealthy by knowing a little about everything. You get wealthy by knowing a lot about something that matters. I learned that the hard way. I used to chase everything that looked like an opportunity. I thought being involved in many things meant I was growing, but I wasn't growing. I was scattered. My focus was diluted, my energy was divided, and my results were average. And the world doesn't pay for average. It pays for mastery, because the man who knows one thing deeply will always outperform the man who dabbles in 10 things superficially. Let me tell you something powerful. Mastery is the real currency of the future. You can't be everywhere and expect to win. You have to choose your lane and then own it so completely that nobody can compete with you in it. The amateurs talk about luck, but the masters talk about skill, because mastery creates its own luck. The better you become, the more the world opens doors for you. Here's the hook. When you become exceptional at what you do, you no longer chase opportunities. Opportunities chase you. People start talking about you in rooms you haven't entered yet. Clients start coming to you instead of you running after them. Why? Because mastery builds authority, and authority attracts abundance. Most people quit before they reach that level. They give up right before the breakthrough, because mastery takes time. It demands patience, focus, and discipline. It's not glamorous. It's repetitive. You'll fail more times than you'll succeed. You'll question yourself. You'll wonder if it's worth it. But if you push through that stage, if you stay in the fire long enough, something incredible happens. You stop learning the skill, and the skill starts learning you. It becomes second nature. It becomes who you are. That's the magic of masteries. It turns effort into instinct. When you reach that level, your work stops being work. It becomes rhythm. It becomes art. People look at you and think it's easy, but they don't see the years of practice behind the precision. They see the performance, not the preparation. The difference between the good and the great is not talent. It's depth. Everyone starts with potential, but only the committed reach power, because mastery requires obsession, a sacred kind of hunger that refuses mediocrity. You have to be willing to study when others sleep, to practice when others party, to persist when others quit. The road to mastery is lonely, but it's also the only road that leads to greatness. When I talk about mastery, I'm not talking about perfection. Perfection is impossible. Mastery is about progress. It's about doing the same thing so many times that improvement becomes inevitable. It's about the quiet confidence that says, I know my craft. That kind of confidence can't be bought. It can only be earned. And here's another truth. The reason most people never become masters is because they're addicted to novelty. They get bored easily. They love the excitement of starting, but they hate the discipline of finishing. They want instant results, but mastery doesn't work like that. Mastery is built in silence. It's built in the hours when nobody's watching, in the days when nobody claps, in the seasons when you feel unseen, because mastery grows in obscurity before it shines in public. There's a saying, the master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried. That's the price. You don't earn mastery by avoiding mistakes. You earn it by outlasting them. Every failure becomes feedback. Every setback becomes refinement. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to sharpen your edge. When you finally reach mastery, something shifts. You stop competing. You stop comparing. You realize there's no race. There's only rhythm. You don't need to prove anything to anyone because your results speak for you. Masters don't shout. Their work whispers excellence so loudly that the world can't ignore it. Here's the hook. Mastery is freedom. Because once you master something valuable, you control your future. You're no longer replaceable. You're no longer negotiating from weakness. You become the standard others try to meet. And that's when the money, the respect, and the opportunities start multiplying. Not because you're chasing them, but because you've become worthy of them. You have to understand, the world is full of noise, but mastery cuts through the noise. Everyone's posting, everyone's promoting, everyone's pretending, but the master doesn't need to shout. The master just delivers. And that delivery, that consistency, that excellence builds trust. And trust is the foundation of all wealth. You want to be paid more? Become irreplaceable. You want influence? Become undeniable. Learn your craft so deeply that people can't imagine doing it without you. That's how you win. You don't win by being everywhere. You win by being exceptional somewhere. I stopped trying to be popular. I started trying to be proficient. And the moment I did, my life changed. Because popularity fades, but proficiency lasts. Fame is seasonal. Mastery is eternal. The spotlight will move on, but skill will keep shining. So when you look at the people at the top, the leaders, the visionaries, the innovators, remember, they weren't always that good. They started like everyone else, uncertain, clumsy, average. The only difference is that they stayed when others left. They refined when others relaxed. They turned repetition into revelation. That's how they became masters. You don't get to the top by wishing, hoping, or lucking your way up. You get there by mastering your lane, by showing up again and again until you can't be ignored. And when that happens, success becomes predictable. Because mastery doesn't just make you good at something, it makes you valuable. And value is what the world rewards every single time. That's why I say, stop chasing everything. Pick something, study it, live it, breathe it. And one day the world will pay you, not because you're working, but because you've mastered the work. Let me tell you something most people never realize. The world doesn't wait for anyone. Opportunity doesn't knock on every door. It waits for the one who builds the door himself. Too many people are sitting, hoping, wishing for a miracle, waiting for something to happen, when the truth is, nothing changes until you move. Success doesn't come to the one who waits. It comes to the one who creates. Every breakthrough in history was born because someone decided to stop waiting for permission and start building their own path. That was the moment my life began to change, the day I stopped waiting. I had been sitting in meetings, sending proposals, hoping for a chance that never came. And then I realized, why am I asking for a seat at the table when I can build my own table? That thought woke me up. Because waiting is a habit that kills dreams silently. You tell yourself you're being patient, but deep down you're afraid. You're afraid to fail, afraid to start, afraid to be seen trying. But here's the truth. Fear doesn't disappear when you wait. It grows. It becomes stronger every time you say, maybe tomorrow. Here's the hook. If you don't take charge of your life, someone else will. And they'll build their dreams using your time, your energy, and your ideas. You can either be the architect of your future or the employee of someone else's vision. But you can't be both. The moment you realize that, you stop waiting for perfect timing and start creating perfect moments. The people who win in this world aren't the smartest or the luckiest. They're the ones who act while others hesitate. They take imperfect action. They launch before they're ready. They make mistakes, learn, and move again. And while everyone else is thinking, planning, and doubting, they're building momentum because action breeds clarity. You'll never think your way into success. You act your way into it. I remember sitting in front of my laptop years ago trying to plan the perfect business strategy. I kept tweaking it, fixing small details, adjusting numbers. Months passed and nothing happened. Then one day I realized I was planning out of fear. I wasn't refining, I was hiding. I was waiting for certainty in an uncertain world. And the day I stopped waiting and started acting, everything changed. Because success doesn't reward perfection, it rewards progress. Every person you admire, every business that changed the world, every legacy that still inspires generations started with someone who refused to wait. They didn't have all the answers. They didn't have guarantees. They just had the courage to start. That's what separates dreamers from doers. Dreamers want to know how everything will turn out before they move. Doers trust that clarity will come with the journey. You see, waiting for the right time is a beautiful way to waste your life. There's no right time. There's only now. The world doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards boldness. You'll never be 100% ready, and that's okay. The people who change the world don't wait for comfort. They move in chaos. They create order out of uncertainty. Here's another truth. Opportunity doesn't announce itself. It hides inside problems. It disguises itself in discomfort. The people who create opportunities are the ones who look at problems and say, I can fix that. They don't wait for someone else to step up. They become the solution. Because waiting for opportunities is waiting for someone else to decide your destiny. Every time you delay, you lose momentum, and momentum is everything. Once you start, life begins to respond. Doors open, people appear, resources align, but none of that happens until you take the first step. People say, I'm waiting for a sign. Here's the truth. You are the sign. The moment you decide to move, the universe begins to move with you. I've met people who spend years talking about what they're going to do someday. Someday they'll start that business. Someday they'll write that book. Someday they'll take that risk. But someday is code for never, because the longer you wait, the heavier your excuses become. One day turns into 1 year, and before you know it, the chance is gone. You don't lose because you failed. You lose because you never started. Here's the hook. The graveyard is full of ideas that never lived, dreams that were delayed until it was too late. And that's the tragedy of waiting. You think you're playing it safe, but you're actually burying your potential alive. Safety is an illusion. The longer you wait, the more opportunities you miss, and the harder it becomes to start. You don't need more time, you need more courage. You don't need all the resources, you need resourcefulness. Because once you start, you figure things out. Once you move, the path begins to appear. Waiting keeps you in theory. Action brings you into reality. When I stopped waiting, I discovered something powerful. Action creates power. Every step you take builds confidence. Every risk you face teaches you resilience. Every small win builds momentum for the next. And soon, you're no longer chasing opportunities. You're creating them. You become the kind of person others look at and say, how did he do it? But the truth is simple. You just did it. People often say, what if I fail? You will. You'll fall. You'll stumble. You'll make mistakes. But failure is not the opposite of success. It's the process of it. Every person who wins has a trail of failures behind them, but they're still standing because they never stopped creating. There's a certain power in movement. Even small action beats big intentions. You may not know where to start, but start somewhere, because life rewards the mover, not the thinker. The moment you decide, I'm done waiting, you shift from being a spectator to a creator. That's when everything begins to change. Because when you start building, the world starts watching. When you take risks, the universe starts responding. When you create instead of wait, you step into your power. You stop existing and start living. And if you're still waiting for the right moment, here's your reminder. This is the right moment, right now. Not next week, not next month, not next year. Because opportunity doesn't knock twice. It moves on to the one who was ready to move. So stop waiting for the world to choose you. Choose yourself. Build your door. Create your chance. And walk boldly through it. Because nobody's coming to save you. It's on you to save your dream. Let me tell you something that took me years of chasing, earning, and losing to understand. Wealth was never about the zeros in my account. It was never about the car I drove or the house I bought. Real wealth is peace of mind. You see, for most of my life, I thought being rich meant having more money, more power, more recognition. But what I didn't realize was that in chasing more, I was losing myself. I had the money, but I couldn't sleep. I had success, but I couldn't smile. And that's when it hit me. If your mind is not at peace, your wealth is nothing but noise. I've met millionaires who live like prisoners. They wear luxury like armor to hide their emptiness. They have everything except peace. And I've met people with nothing but a smile and a purpose who sleep better than kings. That's when I learned peace is the real profit, because the richest person in the room is not the one with the most money. It's the one with the calmest heart. We live in a world that confuses noise with success. People think they're rich when they're busy. They think they're valuable when they're seen. But here's the hook. Busyness is not progress, and attention is not fulfillment. You can be popular and still feel invisible. You can be powerful and still feel powerless. Because wealth has never been about what's in your hands. It's always been about what's in your heart. Let me tell you what happens when you start chasing money without meaning. You become restless. You start measuring your worth by digits. You start comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. You start believing that happiness is a destination at one promotion away, one deal away, one purchase away. But it never ends, because money can buy comfort, but it can't buy contentment. It can buy you pleasure, but it can't buy you peace. You'll know you're truly rich when you no longer need validation from anyone. When you wake up in the morning, not because of pressure, but because of purpose. When your silence feels better than the applause, that's wealth, that's power. Because peace of mind is the highest form of luxury, the kind you can't buy, you can only build. And here's where most people get it wrong. They think peace comes after success. They think, once I make it, I'll finally rest. Once I earn enough, I'll finally be happy. But the truth is, peace is not the result of wealth. It's the foundation of it. When your mind is calm, your decisions are sharp. When your heart is steady, your path becomes clear. Wealth doesn't come from chaos. It grows from clarity. I remember a time I was closing deals left and right. Money was flowing. Fame was rising. But my soul was exhausted. I was surrounded by people, yet I felt completely alone. One night, I sat in silence and asked myself a simple question. What's the point of having everything if I can't even breathe in peace? That was the moment I began to understand that real wealth isn't about owning things. It's about owning yourself. You can't put a price on peace, because when you have peace, you think better, you love deeper, you work smarter. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop competing and start creating. You stop chasing and start attracting. That's the shift. From desperation to direction, from chaos to calm. Here's the hook. Money will show you who you are. If you're empty inside, it will magnify that emptiness. If you're lost, it will make you feel more lost. But if you're grounded, if you have peace, it will amplify your purpose. That's why people lose themselves in wealth. They think money will fix what only meaning can heal. Peace of mind comes when your values and your actions align, when you're not selling your integrity for attention, when you can look in the mirror and respect the person staring back at you. That's when you know you've made it. Not when the world applauds you, but when your soul applauds you. Because true success is silent. It's the ability to walk away from noise and still feel complete. You see, real wealth is waking up with gratitude, not greed. It's knowing that what you have is enough and who you are is worthy. It's being present with your family without checking your phone every 2 minutes. It's finding joy in simplicity, power in stillness, and meaning in service. That's where peace lives, in the quiet confidence that you're walking your path, not someone else's. The poor man says, "If I had more money, I'd be free." The rich man without peace says, "If I had more peace, I'd finally rest." Both are trapped in the same illusion that something outside will fix what's missing inside, but nothing outside you can ever fill the emptiness within. That's your work. That's your responsibility. You want to know the truth? Freedom isn't about how much you own. It's about how little owns you. The less you need, the richer you become, because peace isn't found in the pursuit of more. It's found in the appreciation of enough. When you reach that level of contentment, money becomes a tool, not a master. You use it. It doesn't use you. I got rich the day I stopped chasing what I didn't need. The day I started measuring wealth by peace, not possessions. The day I stopped running and started being. Because the moment you find peace in the middle of chaos, that's when you've truly made it. So if you want to be rich, don't start by counting your money. Start by counting your peace. Protect your mind like it's your greatest asset, because it is. Guard your energy like it's gold, because it's priceless. Build a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. That's the kind of wealth that never crashes, never fades, and never leaves. Because peace of mind, that's the real currency of the rich.